He came down with the flu, a stomach virus, and slept in the spare bedroom, not wanting to infect his wife or their daughter. On the second day, Patrick Burke realized that Stacy, their daughter, had come to check on him. She came in before leaving for school, then when she returned from school, and then when she woke up in the morning. Twyla Burke screamed in horror when Patrick told her that he believed he had contracted the same virus as everyone else. Twyla demanded that he leave the room immediately and go to the spare room. And Twyla had not looked into the room even once since he entered there. The half-bathroom adjacent to the spare bedroom was short of toilet paper, and he needed more ibuprofen and something to drink. The thought of food made his stomach churn, but he knew he needed something to replenish all the fluids he had lost over the last 36 hours. Damn, what a miserable mattress, Patrick realized, trying to get comfortable on the bed. Expensive? He called weakly. He knew she was home. He heard her laughing and squealing into her cell phone. Twyla paced back and forth as she talked, often walking around their entire four-room house several times during one conversation. Expensive, he called out as she walked past the closed bedroom door. Twyla! He knew she heard him. She stopped for a moment. Then the muffled, mumbled conversation with someone continued, and she left. Woman, I know you heard me, Patrick muttered. He found his cell phone and sent Twyla a text message. Need toilet paper, ibuprofen, and Gatorade. A few minutes later, he sent a second message. She was no longer talking on the phone. The TV in the living room was on. Honey, I sent you 2 text messages, Patrick said abruptly, staggering into the living room. You can't say you didn't see them. Are you still contagious? Twyla screamed, raising her hands as if to protect herself from any germs he might have. I'm sure so, Patrick said. I'm still feverish. I sent you 2 text messages I need. Well, get away from me. The last thing I need is to get sick, Twyla screamed. And that was the first thing I needed? Patrick said sharply. Now, I need toilet paper. I need ibuprofen. And please bring me some Gatorade. I like the taste of fruit punch. Okay, just get away from me, Twyla said, waving at him, trying to get him out of the living room. 3 hours later, Patrick staggered to their master bathroom and grabbed 3 rolls of toilet paper from under the vanity. While he was there, he took 2 ibuprofen with some tap water. He then staggered back to the spare room. Stacy returned home from visiting her best friend. Patrick woke up feeling weak and disoriented when he heard his daughter calling for her mother. Checking his cell phone, Patrick saw that it was already after 5 in the evening. Dad, how are you feeling? Stacy asked quietly as she peered through the door. Terrible, Patrick said, trying to smile. So, I guess I'm feeling better. How are you, Stacy Face? You don't know where Mom is? Stacy asked. No. Last time I saw her, God, it was... Wow, saw about 9:30, Patrick said. Oh, Stacy said. At 5:30, Patrick tried to call Twyla. The call rang several times and then went to voicemail. A subsequent text message was ignored. Stacy tried at 6:30 and the call went straight to voicemail. At 12 minutes after 8, Twyla came in and yelled at Stacy for making a mess when the 9-year-old girl had to fix herself something to eat. Did you see the mess your daughter made? Twyla demanded, waking up Patrick, who was dozing. Did you bring me Gatorade? Patrick asked. She spilled cheese on the burners. You know how hard it will be to clean up, Twyla continued. Where the hell have you been? Damn, I asked you to bring me ibuprofen and Gatorade at 10 in the morning, Patrick said. Twyla closed the door of the room, and a moment later Patrick heard her screaming at their daughter again. In the small bathroom, he drank some water from the tap before the spasm seized him again. Luckily, with the bathroom door closed, he couldn't hear Twyla scolding their daughter. On Monday morning, after a painful weekend, Patrick felt well enough to leave his bedroom. He made himself a breakfast of scrambled eggs and some toast. He drank some orange juice and then swayed towards his bedroom. You better not be contagious, was Twyla's greeting. Yeah, I'm feeling better. Thanks for asking. No, don't worry, I don't need anything. I just ate eggs. You know, solid food. It's just what the doctor ordered, Patrick said, choosing underwear and socks. He shaved, shuddering as his razor struggled to cut through 4 days of stubble. The hot, needle-sharp shower actually made him feel 100% better. He took out the last 2 ibuprofens and washed them down with a swig of Listerine. Then he got dressed for another day of work in the accounting department of Oakleaf Public Utilities. Twyla and Stacy were in the kitchen, Stacy gloomily gnawing on her oatmeal, complaining about having to eat oatmeal, while Twyla ignored the girl. "Make you strong and big like Batman," Patrick jokes, playfully ruffling the girl's hair. "Dad, do I want to grow up strong and big like Batman?" Stacy sighed. "Poison ivy?" Patrick suggested, picking up his briefcase. "Catwoman?" "Okay." Stacy rolled her eyes. After an unremarkable day at work, Patrick stopped at the local Walmart and bought a case of assorted bottles of Gatorade. He picked up a package of Northern toilet paper and 2 large bottles of generic ibuprofen. Driving through the bedding section, Patrick found a plush mattress pad and stuffed the folded bedding into his shopping cart. "Why did you buy this?" Twyla complained as Patrick was placing his Gatorade purchases in the pantry. "What did I ask you to buy on Saturday?" Patrick asked. "I don't know. What?" Twyla asked. "Try to guess," Patrick said, picking up one of the sports drink bottles. As Stacy approached the dinner table, Patrick showed the girl the 5 single-serve packages of beef macaroni and cheese he had bought for her. Together, they figured out the instructions for using the microwave. Twyla ignored them. Something on her phone caught her attention. "See? So what if Mom is too busy and I'm lying in bed dying of illness?" Patrick said, kissing the top of his daughter's head. "Don't leave it in the oven. Do you know how hard it is to clean it?" Twyla snapped, when Stacy admitted that she was looking forward to cooking her own food. "And the award for Mother of the Year goes to—" Patrick muttered to himself as he left the kitchen. Patrick removed the slightly musty-smelling sheets and mattress cover from the bed in the spare bedroom. The pillows weren't machine washable, so Patrick took them out onto outdoor furniture in their backyard. That night, as he lay in bed, Twyla looked at him. His displeasure was evident as he crawled under the covers. "Me? You? Are you going to sleep here?" she asked. "This is my bed. I've slept in this bed since we got married," Patrick said. "Why don't I sleep in this bed?" "Oh, well, I just thought, you'll just keep sleeping in," Twyla said. "Sorry if this is inconvenient for you, but I plan to sleep in my own bed," Patrick said, turning away from her. He didn't hear her answer. She immediately turned on the TV. The volume was very high. Patrick often wondered if Twyla suffered from slight hearing loss. "Jesus Christ, Twyla, turn it down," Patrick grumbled after a moment. "Well, if you don't like it—" Twyla began to speak. Patrick snatched the remote control from her hands, turned off the TV, and then placed the remote control on the front of his underpants. His steady gaze challenged her to try and reach for the control panel. The next morning, Patrick didn't get much of a breakfast, although Twyla was up 30 minutes before he slowly got up, showered, and shaved. There was Stacy's bowl of oatmeal with walnuts. "Mom! Oh, oatmeal? Oatmeal?" Stacy squealed. "Make you strong and big like—" Patrick joked. "No, Dad, okay." Stacy frowned, gloomily swallowing the first spoonful. "Wash," warned Patrick. "Why?" "It looks like everything has already been chewed," Stacy stated. Victoria Baker remembered, as did 3 others in his office. Patrick was pleased with the large candle in the jar and really liked the little bear with floppy, moldable arms that Victoria had placed peeking out of the gift bag. She smiled at Patrick at 32 when he told her that his Stacy face would love Mr. Teddy. For lunch, since it was his 30th birthday, Patrick indulged in lunch from the school lunch van. While standing in line, he changed his choice from unkempt Jose to Hungarian goulash, then to beef with vegetables. The conversations around were lively. Apparently, many people in that line knew each other, knew the food truck's menu. "Scruffy Jose," he ordered, and the attractive red-haired girl gave him a beaming smile. Her starchy white school blouse barely contained her ample breasts, and when she turned around to spoon on some coleslaw and applesauce, her plaid skirt pulled up over her cute ass. "Girls didn't look like this when we were at school, did they, mate?" The older man joked with Patrick. "If they did, my grades would be even worse than they were," Patrick agreed. And the two men exchanged a smile and a nod. The food was delicious, and Patrick wondered if he should allow himself lunch from the van once a month. Returning to the office, he looked around his desk. But Twyla didn't wander inside to leave a birthday card. A gift. There were no messages on his office voicemail or on his cell phone. Arriving home, the table was empty. Stacy was already at home doing her homework. "You provide your own dinner. I'm running late," Twyla wrote in a text message. "Hey, kid," Patrick said as he entered her room. Stacy was delighted with the little fluffy figure and immediately found the perfect place for it. Then she found another ideal location. Third place was perfect. Or maybe he'll be better off here. "So why do you have this?" Stacy said as she wrapped Mr. Teddy's arms around her cell phone charger. "Because today is my birthday," Patrick admitted. "Do you want a bully burger?" "Dad, is it your birthday?" Stacy exclaimed, devastated that she didn't know it was her dad's birthday. Bully?" Patrick asked again. After 1.5 hamburgers, Patrick knew Stacy wouldn't be able to eat her ranch burger, so they went to Holland's for some hand-dipped ice cream. They arrived at the small store at a good time. There was no queue. "Hello, welcome to Holland. What can I offer you?" The young girl squealed cheerfully. "Today is my dad's birthday. Do you have birthday cakes?" Stacy asked the young woman. "Let's see. Oh, right here. You know those Boston cream pies? It's like that, but it's a Boston ice cream pie," the girl suggested, showing them a Boston ice cream pie in the display case. "You know what? Looks like we can share this," Patrick agreed, and the girl smiled. Patrick let Stacy eat as much as she could, nipping at the cool, refreshing treat while he waited his turn. He nodded when he heard the manager compliment the young cashier for recommending dessert. When Stacy admitted defeat, Patrick ate the rest of the Boston ice cream pie. "Miss, it was very tasty. Thank you," Patrick said, and again the girl smiled. Twyla burst into the house at 8:49. Her brown eyes narrowed into angry slits as Stacy told her about bully burgers and Holland's ice cream. Twyla stared at Patrick, and Patrick looked at her calmly. "And why did you take her for ice cream? You know that I don't like it when—" Twyla began to demand from Patrick. "Because it's his birthday. He's 30 years old today," Stacy interjected. What is this?" Twyla asked her daughter. "Today is Dad's birthday. He's 30 years old today," Stacy exclaimed. Said Patrick. "Staceface, it's time for a bath, okay, honey?" "I didn't—" "Why? Why didn't you tell me?" Twyla asked. "Damn, Twyla. Why didn't I say, should I remind you when your birthday is? Huh? Should I remind you when our anniversary is?" Patrick quit. "Why should I tell you when my birthday is? You're a grown woman. You have a calendar on your phone. Use it." That night, Twyla came to bed in her sex outfit. Patrick looked at the 29-year-old woman and noticed a small hole in her stockings. He looked at her breasts and noticed that they had sagged considerably under their weight. He noticed the small belly she couldn't get rid of after Stacy was born. They met at a Delta Row party where she was an intern, and Patrick's friend brought Patrick along. Twyla, being drunk, tripped over Patrick and would have fallen if he had not caught her. Immediately, she started screaming at him for grabbing her breasts. 2 Delta Row girls walked up and kicked Patrick and his friend out of the party. This was normal for Patrick. The beer was from Gratules. This was normal for Patrick's friend. The girl he came to the party with decided to spend time with someone else. 3 days later, sitting in the Connolly Library, Patrick was approaching Twyla Johnson. She was a beautiful young woman, long honey hair, deep brown eyes, and a thin nose with full lips. Her breasts were large on her slender figure, and Twyla wore a top to highlight her bust. She apologized for the misunderstanding and offered to treat him to dinner at the Golden Dragon Chinese restaurant. She forgot her wallet, so Patrick ended up paying for dinner. Parking behind the Connolly Library, Twyla rewarded Patrick with pleasure below the belt. On their next date, they had sex. "I'm pregnant," Twyla told him at the end of the semester. She already failed all her classes, so she dropped out of college. Patrick studied on a scholarship and, since his parents were deceased, could count on their insurance. They married in a simple ceremony and set up home. Now, 9.5 years later, Patrick looked at the woman he had married. Those deep brown eyes were hard. Those plump lips rarely formed a smile. And her 29-year-old body looked tired and worn out. "Hooray, it's time for my compassionate sex," Patrick said, emotionlessly, and rolled over. "Good night, Twyla." "Family law?" Patrick asked Victoria Baker quietly the next morning. "Andrew Walker," Victoria said immediately. "If I was ever going to divorce Natalie, God knows I never would. But if I ever did, I would go to Andrew. What if Andrew couldn't? I would take Teresa White." Patrick nodded seriously and stirred honey into his green tea. As he carried the mug to his office, he saw an internal email from Victoria. He smiled when he saw Andrew J. Walker's phone number. "Just because I missed your stupid damn birthday?" Twyla was screaming, and Patrick knew she had been served with court papers. "My lawyer's business card was with documents," Patrick Twile said. "In the future, call his office. Don't call me," Patrick said, and ended the call. He knew she would call again. He ended the call. Twyla couldn't or wouldn't accept that he had the last word, so she called back immediately. When he sent it to voicemail, she called again. "Write it down. Write down how many times she does it," Andrew said. "This will show a model. Help us determine who should get custody of Stacy." "Right in front of her. I was right in front of her when I took my suits out of the bedroom," Patrick said, sending Twyla to voicemail again. 43 times, Andrew said, as Patrick tallied the total number of missed calls 10 minutes before he blocked her phone number. Then she called my work number 14 times before I blocked her there," Patrick agreed. "But since you have a 9-year-old daughter, you need to unblock her," Andrew said. "She needs a way to contact you in case something happens to Stacy." Patrick lived at Oxbow Plaza when it was the Claremont Apartments. Then he lived in apartment 311. Yeah, well, walking up and down all those steps wasn't much of a problem back then. Patrick smiled as he opened the door to apartment 106. "Hello, neighbor," smiled Simone Hozarski, his neighbor from apartment 107, walking out with a large canvas bag over her shoulder. "Getting ready for work?" Patrick smiled, seeing the blonde's painted face. "Uh-huh." Simone smiled with a flirtatious smile. "Come to me, do you hear?" "I wish I could," Patrick admitted, watching her sweetly rounded buttocks jiggle and move away from him. "What?" "You're old enough, right?" she teased before disappearing around the corner. "Uh-huh. Just can't afford that $25 entry fee on top of the $16 beer," Patrick muttered as he walked into his dark, cool apartment. Upton, Stacy's annoying little silky terrier, whined and howled and scratched at the door. Patrick took 3 plastic grocery bags and Upton's leash before opening the door slightly. Upton immediately tried to squeeze through the gap, and Patrick grabbed her and attached the leash to her collar. Upton frantically searched for a suitable patch of grass to urinate on. Finally, when Patrick was ready to just squeeze the piss out of her, she found the right spot and let go. Another 5 minutes of searching, and Upton found a place to defecate. Patrick leaned down, reached through the plastic bag, and found the poop. He then held the poop until he turned the bag inside out. Voila! The poop was collected without Patrick's hand ever touching it. "Wow, that's pretty smart," praised the horse-faced, distraught woman from apartment 215, as she and her stupid Chihuahua Marco now searched for the perfect place to do his business. Upton didn't like Marco or Marco's mom. Marco bared his teeth, and Patrick had to hold Upton, otherwise she would have torn the plump creature. "Yes, well, someone is hungry and waiting for their dinner," Patrick said, and left. Twyla didn't like dogs. Twyla didn't like animals at all. That's why Stacy was never allowed to have a puppy. Victoria bought Upton from a breeder. She and Natalie named the beautiful little creature Upton, after the stunningly beautiful Kate Upton. Shortly after they received her, they discovered to their horror that Victoria was severely allergic to animals. Since Oxbow Plaza allowed pets up to 50 pounds, Patrick took charge of the capricious animal. The weekend was the worst. Weekends when he didn't have his Stace face. Patrick and Upton were sitting at home and missing their sweet, cheerful girl. But they managed to cope. They even managed to invite Simone to dinner with cashew chicken and hot and sour soup. Simone fussed a lot with the wobbling, squirming Upton, then complimented Patrick's cooking skills. Upton's reward for being a good girl was a dog treat and a kiss on the head. Patrick's reward was a soft, promising kiss and a hug that pressed Simone's braless breasts against his torso. "Oh, are you taking her for a walk?" Simone asked sweetly as Patrick took the leash. It's almost time for Daddy's bedtime, so Daddy takes Upton out so she can do her business," Patrick agreed. "Oh, let me come with you," begged Simone. Patrick smiled as Simone took his arm. Upton was distracted. She was asking for someone's attention more than looking for a place to urinate. "Go to the toilet," Simone told the animal sternly. "Go to the toilet and then I'll pet you." "Good night," Simone said as Patrick and Upton walked her to the door. Patrick received another soft kiss and Upton received a scratch on the head. Then, with a smile, Simone closed the door behind her. "Rotten. You're just rotten," Patrick said, causing Upton to wag his tail wildly. Patrick received the news on Monday. 2 accountants from their office traveled to Austin for a quarterly seminar. He and Art Patel got the lucky ticket. The fact that Patrick was scheduled to be with Stacy from Wednesday to Wednesday didn't matter to Catherine Winslow. The head of the administrative department didn't care about Patrick's problems at home. "You are scheduled to participate, and failure to do so will result in your immediate dismissal," Catherine said with a scornful smile on her face. Twyla said nonchalantly that she was busy. She made plans since it was Patrick's week with Stacy. "And no, she won't tolerate it." "Of course not," Patrick muttered. "Why on earth would you ever do anything to help me?" On Tuesday evening, Simone returned from checking her email just as Patrick and Upton left his apartment for an evening stroll. Simone opened the door, threw her mail on the sofa, and joined Patrick. Patrick didn't ask himself why the beautiful 19-year-old dancer found him interesting. He simply allowed himself to enjoy her company. But while Upton went through her ritual of finding a place to pee, Patrick told Simone about his problems. "Is this Stacy? Is this the charming little girl who comes here?" Simone clarified. My daughter," Patrick agreed. "How long is this seminar?" Simone asked. "I leave Wednesday night. It starts Thursday morning, ends Friday afternoon," Patrick said. "So, you need someone to pick up Stacy. Stop calling her Stacy Face. It's terrible. You need someone to get her ready for school on Thursday and Friday. Someone who will be there when she gets back home on Thursday and Friday," Simone clarified. "Yeah, basically. And Twyla refuses to change or just hold her until I get home Friday night," Patrick said. "I'll do it," said Simone. "I'll just tell Donnie that I have a family business and I need to take Thursday and Friday off." "I can't ask," Patrick started, but picked up Upton's poop. "You didn't ask. I offered," Simone said. "Stacy goes to Sam Houston?" "No, Ann Richards. It's right next to her mom's house," Patrick said. "So what time do I need to get there?" Simone asked. "Last call is 8:10, Patrick said. "What will it cost me? I can't let you do this for nothing. What will it cost me?" "Bully Burger. I love, love, love their iconic burger, double. And then we have to grab a giant hot chocolate sundae from Holland's," Simone declared. "Can we take Stacy?" Patrick smiled. She would be outraged if she found out we went to Holland's and she didn't go. "On our first date?" "Of course," Simone said. "Our second date?" "No. Our second date is a grown-up affair." "Simone, what? What the hell could a beautiful young woman like you want from a 30-year-old man?" "Like me?" Patrick asked when they stopped in front of her apartment door. "You mean a man who spends every minute with his little girl? A man who doesn't treat his daughter like she's a big inconvenience?" Like she has no rights or value just because she's not a boy? A man who, although he knows what I do, hasn't tried to get under my skirt? A man who treats me like I'm not some kind of life support system for a pair of tits? Simone asked. She kissed him tenderly, and then opened the door to her apartment. She gave him a megawatt smile. Hey, Mr. Burke, you should see yourself in a suit, she croaked. On Wednesday afternoon, Patrick drove from the Oakleaf utility plant to Ann Richards Elementary School. He looked into the after-school study room off the library's main lobby and smiled. His Stacy was playing checkers with a very cute girl of about 5, maybe 6. Stacy was losing horribly, and the little girl was giggling excitedly. 3 games in a row, the stocky middle-aged woman answered before Patrick could ask. Patrick told Mrs. Ortega that his friend Simone Hozarski would pick up Stacy on Thursday and Friday afternoon. He wrote down the information on the sheet Mrs. Ortega pulled out, but was forced to admit that he didn't have Simone's phone number. Okay, Patrick smiled. Hey, baby, are you almost ready yet? The baby's name was also Stacy Haverleen, and she was in kindergarten. Since they both had the same name, Stacy Haverlin assumed that she and Stacy Burke were sisters. The 2 girls shared a quick hug before Stacy Burke grabbed her backpack and waved to Mrs. Ortega. Simone smiled and reintroduced herself to Stacy. She then helped Stacy corner Upton and tie a leash on the stubborn animal. I'm so sorry, Simone said when they returned. Staceface says it's her favorite name in the whole world, but only her daddy can call her that. I told you so, Patrick said, smiling. He prepared dinner for them. He forced Stacy to take a shower and placed her school clothes on a small chair in the bedroom. Her shoes were scuffed, so Patrick made sure to polish her toes. Oh my God, you don't want to leave her, Simone found out. Is this because of me? Because of what I do? No. This has nothing to do with you. That's because I've been waiting all damn week to see her, Patrick said. If I didn't need this job so much, I would tell Catherine Winslow to go lick a brick. Oh, what a daddy, Simone exclaimed, hugging him. Oh, what a dad. Simone gave him a searing kiss. When a still very wet Stacy came out of the bathroom, dressed in her pajamas, she hugged and kissed her father. Simone smiled and kissed him tenderly before playfully pushing him out the apartment door. The seminars turned out to be as boring as Patrick had feared. Every now and then he would pull out his cell phone and smile at the selfie Simone and Stacy had sent him that morning. 2 blondes fight terribly in front of the camera, Upton moving in Stacy's arms. We love you, Dad, Simone wrote in a text message. Love you too, Patrick replied. Please kill me now, Arthur muttered as the very dry and monotonous lecture continued. Bureaucracy is evil. Everywhere you go, bureaucracy is evil, Patrick agreed as they politely applauded, ending the man's speech. So, are you watching something more interesting? Arthur joked as they waited for the next speaker to approach the podium. Yes, my daughter, Patrick said, showing Arthur the selfie. Is it your wife? Arthur asked. I heard rumors that you're getting a divorce. This is my friend. Patrick smiled and straightened up as the next speaker, a tall, very thin woman, was introduced. She's... Never mind. None of my business, Arthur said, turning on his recorder as the woman began her nasal speech. On Friday afternoon, due to technical problems, Patrick was an hour late leaving the seminar. Traffic also prevented him from reaching Great Oak, Texas until late at night, well after 10. He spoke to Stacy on the phone. She said that Miss Simone allowed her to help prepare dinner. They made stuffed pork chops, Brussels sprouts, and rice pilaf. Miss Simone wasn't going to give me Brussels sprouts. She said they were grown-up food, Stacy said. She wasn't even sure I was old enough to eat rice. Do you believe that? No, I really don't believe it, Patrick admitted. Tell him how we cooked the Brussels sprouts, Simone said. Patrick listened to a 10-minute recipe from his daughter with many corrections from Simone. Then Simone picked up the phone, asking him about his trip, the seminars, how soon he would be home. With an, "I love you, be careful," Simone disappeared. Entering the apartment, Patrick saw a blanket draped across two chairs in the living room, a tent in the middle of his living room. Simone stuck her head out and smiled, putting a finger to her lips. "Our little Indian is sleeping," she whispered, crawling out of the teepee. Pressing her whole body against him, she stood on tiptoes and kissed him. Patrick felt her breasts press against him as they embraced. Then, with another kiss, she climbed back into the teepee. "Good night," he heard her whisper. Usually, when Stacy stayed in the apartment, Patrick slept on the couch, leaving the bed for her. He was tired, the day was exhausting, rather boring, and the journey home was long and difficult. Patrick woke up and saw that the bedroom door was tightly closed. He heard Upton's high-pitched bark and smelled coffee and bacon. He also heard two girls squealing and laughing. 9. "No wonder I feel ready to burst," Patrick said, climbing out of bed. "The backbone is up," Simone announced. "It was about time," Stacy agreed. "Waffles? Why, I don't have a waffle iron," Patrick said as Stacy proudly placed the plate on the table in front of her father. Miss Simone lives right there?" Stacy said, pointing toward Simone's apartment. While he ate, Stacy told him how to make the perfect waffles. "You have to use a ladle, isn't that cool?" And they had real bacon, not the turkey her mom insisted on. "Okay, Dad," Simone said, holding her clean waffle iron carefully. "I'm working tonight, and Holland's is closed on Sundays, so our date will be Monday night. I really hate Monday nights. No one watches anything but those stupid Monday night football games, so Donnie knows not to paint me." "Bye, Miss Simone," Stacy said, hugging the woman. "Ah, bye, Stacy face," Simone said, kissing the top of the girl's head. No, only my dad can—" Stacy began to object. "Well, I'm sorry, but I don't remember how to say Stacy, so I'll have to call you Staceface," Simone jokes. "It's sad because Stacy is such a nice name, but I forgot how to say it, so—" "Bye, Staceface." "Well, I'll forget how to say Miss Simone," Stacy retorted. "You better not forget." Simone smiled. "Otherwise, there won't be any more waffles. Do you hear?" While shaving and showering, Patrick noticed that Simone had made a few changes. There was a large, fluffy pink towel hanging from the towel rack. In the shower, there was a bag hanging on a hook attached to the back wall of the shower. The pouch contained a washcloth, a bottle of very floral shampoo, and a bottle of floral-scented body wash. As Patrick took Upton outside, he heard the whole story about the wonderful things he and Miss Simone did. Could she get a belly button piercing like Miss Simone? And Miss Simone told that evil woman with that stupid Marco that she wasn't pretty enough to be such a big bastard and you know you just said a very bad word, Patrick interrupted the ongoing monologue. No, I'm just telling you that, Stacy countered. Don't do that again, Patrick warned, bending down to pick up Upton's poop. As if on cue, Marco and his owner appeared. Marco's mom asked Patrick if he knew what his neighbor, Simone, did and how she made a living. Patrick smiled and said that he understood that Simone was an artist. The woman began. There are little ears that shouldn't hear your opinion, Patrick interrupted sharply. Walking back to their apartment, Stacy ran to the bedroom to put on her swimsuit. Patrick grabbed the trash from the kitchen. It was starting to deteriorate. He was shocked when the garbage bag clanged. Peeling back the plastic packaging containing the bacon, Patrick saw an empty bottle of Albertson's peppermint gin and 2-quart bottles of Mark's peppermint liqueur. He knew he didn't buy any of this. He wasn't a teetotaler, but he honestly couldn't remember the last time he'd consumed anything stronger than a bottle of barley turlings. A check of his refrigerator revealed that 3 bottles of barley turlings were missing. Oh, God, I let a drunkard look after my child, Patrick thought. He desperately wanted to kill Catherine Winslow for forcing him to go to Austin for an extremely boring and useless seminar. He badly wanted to kill his estranged wife for not changing her week with him. At the thought that Simone Hozarski could be drinking while with his daughter, his Stacy face, in the car, Patrick wanted to strangle his neighbor. "Ready, Dad," Stacy exclaimed, running out of the bedroom. Stacy's running caused Upton to start running, racing around the small apartment. Patrick had to smile as both he and Stacy applauded the funny little beast's antiques. Patrick didn't have to confront Simone Hozarski about her drinking. While in one of the rooms, the client bought her a drink. The next time she entered the room, she received even more alcohol. For her good services, Donnie, the owner of Coquettes, allowed her 3 more drinks. Her little Toyota Camry wasn't coping well when she crashed into a Ford F-150 at 2:17 a.m. Sunday. On Monday afternoon, Patrick was ready to kill anyone as he walked into his after-school study room. Katharina Winslow didn't even read his seminar report. She had already read Arthur Patel's report. His cell phone was dead and the charger from his car was in his apartment. The apple with his lunch was soft, and the only chips in the pantry were sour cream and onion flavored. It wasn't a good Monday. Stacy Burke and Stacy Haverlin were the only children left in the room. Ms. Timmons said sharply that she had been trying to contact him and Mrs. Haverlin. Mrs. Timmons's daughter, Wendy, fell at her school and broke her arm. Mrs. Timmons was worried and wanted to get to Alliance Health Square as quickly as possible. After throwing Mr. Berkey and the 2 girls out of the room, Mrs. Timmons locked the room and stormed out. Patrick herded the girls outside to one of the many wooden benches under the canopy. "Stacy, honey, do you know Mom's phone number?" Patrick asked softly, holding his daughter's cell phone in his hand. His worries were not this frightened little girl's fault. Patrick didn't take his terrible Monday out on her. He didn't groan when she shook her head. "Daddy took our phone when he left," the girl said in a whisper, clutching her book bag to her chest. "Well, do you know where your mom works?" Patrick asked as they sat down on a bench in front of the school. "That, store?" Stacy asked. Calls to 2 Burns & Burns. Grocers' stores in the Oakleaf area were unsuccessful. Calls to the produce department of the local Walmart also yielded no results. Patrick mused, puzzled. "Honey, is your mother's last name the same as yours?" "Yeah," Stacy said. "Her name is Missy." No, Patrick laughed. "I mean, is she Haverlin, or does she have another—" "Okay, whatever. I think it's her." The wrecked car came to a creaking stop in front of the bench. The little blonde jumped out of the car, tears streaming down her face. She rushed toward Stacy Haverlin, arms outstretched. Patrick saw the words, "Natural Peaks Grocers," embroidered on the woman's blouse above her left breast. So sorry. Miss Gabby made me stay until Tamara came," the woman apologized to her daughter. "It's okay. I have the same boss," Patrick agreed, standing up. "I don't know you. Are you the new teacher here?" the woman asked, peering at Patrick. No, I'm Patrick Burke. I'm Stacy's dad." Patrick smiled, hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Mrs. Timmons had an emergency, so—" "Did she have an emergency? Missy Haverlin exclaimed, eyes wide. "And she let my child go off with a complete stranger?" "I'm not a total stranger," Patrick said. "Stacy and my daughter—" "You are a stranger to me," Missy stated. "Hi, Patrick Burke." Patrick introduced himself, extending his hand to the woman. "Stacy, get in the car," Missy ordered. "You can be sure someone will hear about it." With a crash and a cloud of burning oil, Missy and Stacy Haverlin left the school parking lot. Patrick drove Stacy to his car. Walking into the after-school room the next day, Patrick saw Mrs. Linder at her desk, helping a child with his math homework. The woman looked up and nodded politely to Patrick. "Hey, Stacy face." Patrick smiled as she and Stacy Haverlin sat playing a game of Uno. So far, it seemed like Stacy was letting the younger Stacy win. "Hi," Missy Haverlin said, walking up to Patrick. "I think we may have started off on the wrong foot yesterday." "I think we started off on the right foot," Patrick smiled, extending his hand to the woman. "Trust me when it comes to my Stace face." "Yeah, well, I'm turning on my mama bear mode and—" Missy smiled, apologetically. "Hey, do you want to go to Bricks, the pizza place right here next door? We usually go to Bricks and—" Patrick said as he and the woman shook hands. "Oh, bricks! I haven't been there in ages," Missy exclaimed. "Come on, at our expense," Patrick suggested. They arrived before Missy and Stacy, so they waited outside. Missy and Stacy jumped out of their rusty car, and Patrick opened the door for them. "No anchovies," Missy demanded when the bored waitress told them to sit anywhere. "We usually get a small 3-cheese pizza for Stacy and a small meat extravaganza for me," Patrick said. Oh, wait. You want them to be vegan?" "What? I'm not vegan," Missy replied. "Oh, well, yesterday you had a shirt from that grocery store and—" Patrick began. "Just because I work there doesn't mean I believe it all," Missy admitted. "Hey, a paycheck is a paycheck, right? If it's not true," Patrick agreed. "So, Patrick, where do you work?" Missy asked. The girls got a large 3-cheese pizza. Stacy looked to her mother for permission before ordering Dr. Pepper. The adults decided to order Supreme, without anchovies, and sweet iced tea. Over pizza, Patrick learned that Missy was 21. She dropped out of school when she discovered she was pregnant. Jimmy Dunn, the baby's father, and Missy never married, but lived together until Jimmy decided he was tired of married life. The last time Missy heard from him, he was serving 12 to 20 years in Mumphrey Penitentiary in Louisiana. All this was said in a whisper. Stacy Haverland was unaware of her father's criminal past. "We were too young and too stupid," Missy said in a whisper. Outside, both Missy and Patrick were nervous, trying to think of more things to talk about. Finally, Patrick admitted that he really had to go. There was a needy, annoying animal waiting at their house. Indeed, both girls looked rather tired. The noise level coming from Stacy's room was rapidly decreasing. "Good night," Missy agreed as Patrick gathered his tired Stacy face towards the door. "Good night," Patrick agreed and leaned in for another kiss. "Mind," Stacy exclaimed as she saw the two adults kissing. Patrick smiled as he heard 2 squeals as the trailer door closed. Stacy made fun of her dad a little as he unlocked the car. Stacy was fast asleep by the time they got to the apartment. She became too big to carry, so Patrick sadly woke her up for the walk from the parking lot to the apartment. At the divorce hearing, Twyla admitted that she still planned to move to Norville, Tennessee to work in the Norville office. The decision that Stacy would remain in the house until she reached adulthood did not sit well with Twyla. She wanted to sell the house and divide the proceeds in the ratio of 65 to 35 in her favor. After all, it was Patrick who filed for divorce. Moreover, she wanted full custody of Stacy Margaret Burke with limited visitation rights for Patrick with their daughter. Judge Lisa Webb tapped her gavel, consummating their marriage. The gavel also ended Twyla's long list of claims, all of which were rejected by Judge Webb. "Good luck in your future endeavors," Patrick muttered darkly, looking at his ex-wife's back. He didn't miss the glances exchanged between Twyla and Carl Holder, her immediate superior. The relationship between Patrick and his supervisor, Victoria Baker, was not as close as that of Twyla and Carl. Victoria Baker, his immediate superior, was not in court with Patrick. Catherine Winslow, their department head, did not sit next to him as they stood before Judge Lisa Webb. 2 days later, the first sign that something was seriously wrong was a phone call that his house was on fire. Douglas East, a retiree who lives 2 houses down the street, called Patrick to report that the house was engulfed in flames and 3 fire engines seemed unable to contain the blaze. A call to Stacy's school confirmed Patrick's worst fears. Stacy was not at school that day. Patrick called his lawyer, who told him to hang up and call the police. Patrick called the Oak Leaf County Sheriff's Office and filed a kidnapping report. He was able to provide the make, model, year, and license plate number of Twyla's vehicle, as well as Twyla and Stacy Burke's likely direction of travel. While Patrick was making numerous phone calls, the Toyota Highlander was driving along a long and deserted Texas highway. Stacy didn't like the car. She smelled bad. Carl Holder was a smoker and smoked Benson and Hedges menthol cigarettes in his car. She also didn't like missing school that day. She had a history test, and she was trying really hard to study for the test. "So we're going to play a game," Twyla said as they drove 4 miles over the speed limit. She giggled to herself. If Patrick thought he was going to have a home, the little device she placed under the bed in the guest bedroom would take care of that. She set the timer to go off at 11 o'clock at night. By the time anyone smells the smoke, she and Dennis Holder will be miles away. Twyla didn't notice the AM and PM signs on the timer. "A game?" Stacy asked. We'll give you a new name," Twyla sang. How about Cinderella?" "Cinderella?" Stacy said. "Mom, this is stupid. Rapunzel? Your hair is so long." "Oh, hey, don't you think you'll look so pretty with long red hair?" suggested Twyla. "Ma'am," Stacy said. "No, not Rapunzel." "Denise? Denise?" Yes, you look like the real Denise," Twyla stated. While Twyla was heading northeast, Carl was heading due east on I-10. He rolled down the window, letting cigarette smoke outside. If Twyla thought he could drive nearly 1,100 miles without smoking, she was wrong. "Crap!" Carl hissed, as the unidentified vehicle suddenly turned on its siren and the front grille lit up with a blue and white strobe light. While Carl waited in the holding cell for his lawyer, Twyla asked Stacy, "So what's your name?" "Mom, this is Stacy," Stacy insisted. "Stacy Marg." No, remember, it's Denise," Twyla insisted, starting to get impatient. "Denise Ann Holder," Stacy said wearily. As they approached Lowenberg, Arkansas, Twyla decided they had put enough distance between them and Texas. A quick glance at the clock on the dashboard made Twyla smile. In 2.5 hours, Patrick's house will be reduced to ashes. She saw a sign for the Home Comfort Inn and turned on her turn signal. "Now remember, your name is Denise. Denise Holder," Twyla reminded Stacy, waking the girl from her uncomfortable sleep. "Yes, madam?" The Latino smiled as 2 tired travelers entered the lobby of the Home Comfort Inn. "Hi, yes, I need a number for—" Twyla began. "I've been kidnapped," Stacy said loudly. "There is a court order preventing her from taking me out of Texas." "Denise, that's not true," Twyla said, trying to laugh at the child's statement. "And my name isn't Denise," Stacy shouted. "My name is Stacy Margaret Burke." "This is true?" the clerk asked Stacy. "No, that's not true." "Okay, we're leaving," Twyla snapped, squeezing Stacy's upper arm tightly. My wife and some guy. They took my son," the Latino hissed, pointing a .38 at Twyla. 10 years. 10 years I have not seen my only son." He kept the gun pointed at the woman as he reached out to press a button to call an outside line on the motel's telephone system. Twyla, looking down the barrel of the gun and at the hatred in the eyes of the motel clerk, realized that her escape had come to an end. "911, what is your emergency?" asked a female voice. "Yes, I have a little girl here saying she's being kidnapped," the man said. "My name is Simone, and I... Simone Hozarski tried to speak, but burst into deep, agonizing sobs. "Everything is fine. Everything is okay." The woman patted Simone on the shoulder. "Sweetie, we were all in the same place as you. Everything is fine." After the van returned to the Alliance Square medical facility, 9 men and 6 women entered the detox clinic and sat in their usual circle. "So, Simone, why do you think it was so difficult for you to admit that you were an alcoholic?" asked Terry Perry. "I don't know," the blonde whispered, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. "Is it because if you admitted it, you couldn't go back to it? If you admitted that you were powerless over alcohol, would you be unable to justify getting your next drink?" Terry insisted. "I don't know," Simona repeated. "Simone," Terry said. "I don't know, okay? I don't know," Simone screamed. "Yes, you do," Terry insisted. "Yes, you know. And until you can become honest?" I don't know, and I don't care," Simone roared at the top of her lungs. Teresa White, Twyla's lawyer, suggested that Twyla accept a plea deal. Carl Holder, Twyla's boss and lover, accepted the request and offered to turn over the state's evidence against Twyla in the kidnapping scheme. And another question about arson, Teresa reminded Twyla. However, Twyla insisted on a jury trial. Twyla knew she could convince any mother in the jury that she had the right to take her own daughter with her. And any man on the jury, Twyla was sure they would be just putty in her hands. A playful smile, a slight ruffle of her long blonde hair. They will fight among themselves to justify it. Told you, Teresa said without sympathy in her voice when Twyla was found guilty on all 12 counts. We should have taken the plea, Teresa said when Twyla was sentenced to a minimum of 20 years at the USA Women's Prison in Waukila, Texas. Mississippi! Stacy J. screamed as her mother walked into the after-school room. Hi, Mississippi! Stacy Face smiled, already picking up their checkers. Oh, I'm gonna kill that man, Missy giggled. He's in wheel 2 double. Good afternoon, Mrs. Burke. Mrs. Ortega smiled, turning her attention away from the boy who was struggling with his reading exercise. Hearing the greeting, Missy smiled widely. Mrs. Ortega smiled and then turned her attention back to the student. After waving to Mrs. Ortega, the 3 blondes left the room. Stacy J. held her mother's hand as Stacy Face walked on the other side of Missy. It's time for you to stop whining. You'll be taller than me, Missy Stace Face said, smiling. Patrick was already in the trailer preparing dinner when the trio entered. Stacy J. was still squealing, but Stacy's face was making gagging noises as Patrick kissed Missy in greeting. While they were eating dinner, Missy reminded Stacy Face and Stacy J. that they had a dentist appointment tomorrow afternoon. Patrick suggested that he simply take pliers and use them to pull out all the teeth. Problem solved. Ma! Make him stop! Stace Face whined. Missy froze, raising her fork to her mouth. What? Stacy Face asked, seeing the strange expression on Missy's face. What did you just call me? Missy asked. Oh, oops. Sorry, Stacy Face said, blushing. Oh no, don't ever apologize for this, Missy demanded. She rose to her feet and hurried around the table. She squeezed Stacy Face in a tight hug. Being a mom is the most rewarding thing in the world, Missy whispered, kissing Stacy Face on the cheek. So why are we here? Stacy Face asked when they sat down. What? Thought you liked this place? Patrick asked as he looked at Lin Cho's menu. We came here for our first date, Stace Face said. Then we came here when you two were getting married. And when we bought the house? Stacy J. agreed. I think they're too smart for us. Missy smiled at Patrick. I think you're right. Patrick smiled, taking Missy's hand. Girls, in about 6 months, you're going to have a baby brother or sister, Missy announced. Sister? Both Stacy and Stacy demanded. And what do you think we should call it? Patrick smiled as the waitress approached. Stacy? Asked Stacy J. and Stace Face, laughing. Oh no, that's too much, Stacy, Patrick insisted. She could be Baby Stace, Stacy J. said. Not Denise, Dad, Stace Face said, suddenly becoming serious. Anything but Denise, okay? Here he is, Upton, here's the birthday boy, Missy announced to the squirming, whimpering beast as Patrick entered the kitchen. Dad today is 30,000, Stacy Face announced, heading to the kitchen. 30,000? Stacy J. squealed. I'm 32, not 30,000, Patrick laughed, lightly smacking his eldest daughter on the bottom. After Patrick and the 2 girls left for work and school, Missy cleaned the house. 7 months of pregnancy made her efforts somewhat difficult, but she smiled happily as she worked. She then baked a chocolate ice cake after their birthday party at Ling Cho Chinese restaurant. She heard the mailman's small truck stop and looked out the kitchen window as a middle-aged man put some things in the mailbox. Even though she knew he couldn't see her through the tinted windows, she waved to the man. At 3:15, she and Upton stood in the long line of cars picking up children from Ann Richards Elementary School. Upton whined, and barked desperately at anyone who so much as looked at their car. Finally, both girls got into the car, and Upton threw herself into the back seat to lick, paw, and scratch the 2 girls until she was distracted. God, Upton, we were only gone for a couple of hours, Stacy Face said. While the girls were doing their homework, Missy remembered that the postman had put mail in their box. She went outside and picked up 3 bills an advertising brochure, and a large red envelope addressed to Patrick Burke. After dinner at Lingcho, the Burkes returned to their home in Oakleaf. Patrick blew out the 30,000 candles on his icebox pie. He thanked his wife for the expensive pen and thanked the two girls for their handmade greeting cards. Oh, yeah, it was in the mail today," Missy said as she found a large red envelope in a wicker basket on the breakfast counter. Patrick looked at the envelope. There was no return address, no stamp, no postmark. Apparently, it was placed in their mailbox by someone other than their mailman. He opened the envelope with his thumbnail. Patrick's blood ran cold as he read the message at the bottom of the unsigned card. "I remembered your birthday this year. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one."